My ex who cheated on me multiple times got engaged to my best friend and they want me as their maid of honor. When I refused, my entire family started calling me selfish and vindictive for not supporting their love. Hi, I need advice because my life has turned into something I cannot understand. I met Jackson, 29M, 3 years ago at a community college where we both took evening classes. I am Charlotte, 27F. He was studying business administration while working part-time at a local garage. I was taking accounting courses to get better job opportunities. Jackson had this way of making everyone laugh. He would crack jokes during breaks and always offered to help classmates with assignments. We started talking after he helped me understand some difficult concepts in our shared math class. Our first real conversation happened when we both stayed late in the library. Jackson told me about his plans to open his own auto repair shop someday. He said he had been saving money for years and already had a location in mind. I told him about my goal to become a certified public accountant. We discovered we both loved hiking and old movies from the 1980s. Jackson knew every line from Back to the Future and could quote it perfectly. We would spend hours talking about our dreams and making plans for weekend hikes. Jackson asked me out after 2 months of friendship. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant near campus. He wore a clean button-down shirt and had gotten a haircut specifically for the occasion. Jackson talked about his childhood and how his parents had divorced when he was 12. He said his mother worked 2 jobs to support him and his younger brother. His father had remarried and started a new family in another state. Jackson mentioned that he rarely spoke to his father anymore and that this had affected his ability to trust people completely. The first year of our relationship was exactly what I had hoped for. Jackson would pick me up from work every Friday and we would drive to different hiking trails around our state. He always packed sandwiches and brought his old thermos filled with coffee. Jackson had memorized all my favorite foods and would surprise me with homemade meals when I had particularly stressful weeks at work. He supported my decision to quit my job at a retail store and focus completely on finishing my accounting degree. Jackson even helped me study by making flashcards and testing me on financial terminology. We moved in together after 18 months. Jackson found a small apartment above a bakery in the downtown area. The place had 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and windows that overlooked the main street. Jackson said the location was perfect because I could walk to campus and he could take the bus to work. We split all expenses equally and created a budget together. Jackson was careful with money and always insisted on saving at least 20% of our combined income. The first sign of trouble appeared during our second year together. Jackson started a new job at a larger auto repair shop across town. His new co-workers were younger and most of them were single. Jackson began staying out later after work and would come home smelling like cigarettes and beer. When I asked about these late nights, he explained that his co-workers had invited him to join their weekly gatherings at a sports bar. Jackson said it was important for him to fit in with his new team and that these social events could help his career advancement. 3 months into his new job, Jackson started receiving text messages at odd hours. The phone would buzz during dinner or while we watched movies together. Jackson would glance at the screen and then put the phone face down without responding. When I asked who was texting him so frequently, he said it was probably work-related messages or updates from his family. His explanation seemed reasonable, so I did not press the issue further. The situation escalated one evening when Jackson left his phone on the coffee table while he took a shower. A message appeared on the screen from someone named Jessica. The preview showed text that included the words "miss you" and "cannot wait." I did not unlock the phone, but I could see enough to know this was not a work-related message. When Jackson returned from the shower, I asked him directly about Jessica. He became defensive and accused me of spying on his personal communications. Jackson said Jessica was a coworker who had been having relationship problems and that he was simply offering friendly advice. I decided to believe his explanation because our relationship had been strong for 2 years. Jackson had never given me serious reasons to doubt his loyalty before this incident. He promised to be more transparent about his friendships with coworkers and agreed to introduce me to Jessica and the others at their next group gathering. This conversation seemed to resolve the issue and Jackson did introduce me to his coworkers the following weekend. Jessica was there and she seemed friendly enough, though she barely spoke to me throughout the evening. 2 months later, I discovered Jackson had been deleting text messages from his phone. I knew this because his phone storage was always full and he would complain about needing to delete old photos and messages. Suddenly, his message history only went back 3 days. When I confronted him about this pattern, Jackson became angry and said I was being paranoid and controlling. He accused me of not trusting him despite his efforts to be more open about his friendships. Jackson said he had been deleting messages to free up storage space and that there was nothing suspicious about this behavior. The arguments about trust and communication continued for several weeks. Jackson would apologize after each fight and promise to do better. He would bring me flowers or plan special date nights to make up for the tension between us. These gestures would temporarily improve our relationship, but the underlying problems never disappeared completely. The breaking point came 6 months ago when I found explicit photos on Jackson's phone. I had borrowed his phone to call my mother because my battery had died. While scrolling through his recent photos to delete a screenshot I had accidentally taken, I saw intimate images that were clearly not of me. The photos were in a hidden folder that Jackson had created specifically for this purpose. When I confronted him with this evidence, Jackson broke down completely. He admitted to having an ongoing relationship with Jessica for the past 8 months. Jackson explained that his connection with Jessica had started as friendship but had gradually developed into something more serious. He said he had not known how to end things with me because we lived together and had built a life together. Jackson claimed he loved both of us in different ways and had been trying to figure out what to do about the situation. He begged me not to leave and promised to cut off all contact with Jessica immediately. I spent that night at my friend Rachel's apartment while Jackson removed all of Jessica's belongings from our place. The next morning, he showed me that he had blocked Jessica's number and deleted all their photos together. Jackson also offered to find a new job to avoid seeing Jessica at work. His willingness to make these sacrifices convinced me to give our relationship another chance. We attended couples counseling for 3 months and our communication improved significantly. Jackson was completely transparent about his daily activities and would even leave his phone unlocked when he was around me. We established new boundaries and Jackson promised to tell me immediately if anyone from his past tried to contact him. The counseling sessions helped us understand the underlying issues that had led to his infidelity, and we both committed to rebuilding trust in our relationship. Everything seemed to be getting better until last month when Jackson suddenly became distant again. He started working longer hours and would come home exhausted every evening. Jackson stopped planning our weekend activities and seemed distracted during conversations. When I asked if something was bothering him, he blamed work stress and said his boss had been demanding overtime from all employees. Last week, I discovered that Jackson had been lying about his work schedule. I drove to his workplace during his supposed overtime hours and found the building completely empty. When I called him, Jackson said he was still at work, but I could see his car was not in the parking lot. That evening, I confronted him about this discrepancy. Jackson admitted he had been meeting with Jessica again for the past month. He said they had been talking about getting back together and that he was confused about his emotions. Jackson told me he had never stopped loving Jessica and that their relationship had been more meaningful to him than ours. He said he had tried to make things work with me but realized he could not forget about Jessica. Jackson asked me to move out of our apartment because he wanted to give his relationship with Jessica a real chance without any complications. I moved back in with my parents 3 days ago and have been trying to process everything that has happened. Yesterday, my best friend Evelyn, 26F, called me with news that made the situation even more complicated. Evelyn and I have been friends since high school and she knows Jackson well because she spent a lot of time with us as a couple. Evelyn told me she has been talking to Jackson regularly since our breakup and that he has asked her to be his girlfriend. Evelyn explained that Jackson reached out to her 2 weeks ago asking for advice about our relationship problems. She said their conversations gradually became more personal and romantic. Evelyn claimed she had developed strong emotions for Jackson and believed they could have a meaningful relationship together. She asked for my blessing to pursue a romantic relationship with him. I told Evelyn that I was not comfortable with this arrangement and that I needed time to think about the situation. Evelyn became upset and said she had hoped I would be supportive of her happiness. She pointed out that Jackson and I were no longer together and that she had not done anything wrong by talking to him. Evelyn said she would pursue the relationship with Jackson regardless of my opinion, but that she hoped we could remain friends. This morning, Evelyn sent me a text message saying that Jackson had proposed to her and that they are planning to get married in 6 months. She said they want to have a small ceremony with close family and friends. Evelyn asked me to be her maid of honor because our friendship means everything to her and she cannot imagine getting married without me by her side. I have not responded to Evelyn's message yet because I cannot understand how she expects me to celebrate her marriage to my ex-boyfriend who cheated on me multiple times. Evelyn knows the entire history of my relationship with Jackson, including all the times he lied and betrayed my trust. She was the person I called when I found those photos on his phone and she was the one who encouraged me to leave him permanently. Now Evelyn wants me to stand beside her while she marries the man who destroyed my ability to trust in relationships. She expects me to smile and congratulate them while pretending that Jackson did not cause me months of pain and confusion. I cannot understand how Evelyn thinks this arrangement is acceptable or how she believes our friendship can continue under these circumstances. My parents think I should decline the maid of honor position but still attend the wedding to maintain my friendship with Evelyn. They argue that Evelyn has the right to make her own choices about relationships even if those choices seem hurtful to me. My mother says that holding grudges will only damage my own happiness in the long run. I am completely lost about what to do in this situation. Part of me wants to cut off contact with both Jackson and Evelyn permanently. Another part of me worries that I will lose my oldest friend if I refuse to support her marriage. I keep thinking there must be something I can do to preserve our friendship while also protecting my own emotional well-being. Has anyone else dealt with a similar situation where a close friend started dating an ex who had been unfaithful? I would appreciate any advice about how to handle this appropriately. Update 1: I posted here 3 weeks ago about my best friend Evelyn getting engaged to my cheating ex-boyfriend Jackson and asking me to be her maid of honor. The responses I received helped me understand that this situation was even worse than I had originally thought. Thank you to everyone who took the time to respond with advice and support. I decided not to respond to Evelyn's text message about being her maid of honor right away. Instead, I wanted to have a face-to-face conversation where I could explain my position clearly and give her a chance to understand why her request was inappropriate. I called Evelyn and asked if we could meet for coffee at the place where we used to study together during high school. She agreed immediately and seemed excited that I was ready to discuss wedding plans. The coffee shop meeting did not go as I had hoped. Evelyn arrived 30 minutes late and spent the first 10 minutes of our conversation talking about wedding dress shopping and venue options. She showed me photos on her phone of different dress styles and asked for my opinion on flower arrangements. When I tried to redirect the conversation toward my concerns about their relationship, Evelyn brushed off my comments and said she did not want to discuss negative topics during such a happy time in her life. I explained to Evelyn that I could not be her maid of honor because Jackson had caused significant damage to my emotional well-being through his repeated infidelity and lies. I told her that watching her marry him would be painful and that I needed time to process the entire situation before I could offer any kind of support for their relationship. Evelyn became defensive and accused me of being selfish and unable to move on from the past. Evelyn said that Jackson had told her everything about our relationship and that she understood he had made mistakes with me. However, she believed that people could change and that Jackson deserved a second chance at happiness. Evelyn claimed that Jackson had been honest with her from the beginning about his past behavior and that their relationship was built on a foundation of complete trust and communication. She said Jackson had never lied to her or hidden anything from her during their courtship. When I pointed out that Jackson had been planning to get back together with Jessica while he was still living with me, Evelyn said that situation was completely different. She explained that Jackson had been confused and conflicted during that time because he had never properly processed the end of his relationship with me. Evelyn believed that Jackson's brief reunion with Jessica had actually helped him realize that he wanted something completely different in his next relationship. Evelyn then revealed information that Jackson had apparently shared with her about our relationship that I found deeply troubling. She said Jackson had told her that I was controlling and paranoid throughout our relationship and that my behavior had pushed him to seek comfort from other women. According to Evelyn, Jackson had never wanted to cheat on me but had felt trapped in a relationship where he could not be honest about his needs and emotions. I was shocked that Jackson had portrayed our relationship this way to Evelyn and that she had believed his version of events without question. Evelyn had witnessed many of the incidents I had described in my original post and had even encouraged me to leave Jackson after discovering his infidelity. Now she was defending his actions and suggesting that I had been partially responsible for his cheating behavior. The conversation became heated when Evelyn accused me of being jealous of her relationship with Jackson. She said I was unable to accept that Jackson could be happy with someone else and that I was trying to sabotage their engagement out of spite. Evelyn claimed that my refusal to support their marriage proved that I had never truly cared about her happiness or our friendship. I left the coffee shop without agreeing to participate in their wedding in any capacity. Evelyn followed me to the parking lot and continued arguing about my decision. She said that if I refused to be her maid of honor, she would have to choose someone else who actually cared about her well-being. Evelyn warned me that my absence from her wedding would permanently damage our friendship and that she would not be able to forgive me for abandoning her during such an important time in her life. 2 days after our coffee shop meeting, I received a phone call from my mother. She told me that Evelyn had contacted her to discuss my refusal to participate in the wedding. Evelyn had apparently painted a very different picture of our conversation and had convinced my mother that I was being unreasonable and vindictive. My mother said that Evelyn was heartbroken by my reaction and genuinely confused about why I could not support her happiness. My mother suggested that I reconsider my position and at least attend the wedding as a regular guest. She argued that Evelyn had been a loyal friend for many years and deserved my support even if I disagreed with her choice of partner. My mother also pointed out that Jackson and I had been broken up for several months and that it was natural for him to move on with his life. When I tried to explain to my mother that the issue was not about Jackson moving on but about Evelyn's complete disregard for my emotions and her willingness to believe Jackson's false narrative about our relationship, my mother said I was overreacting. She suggested that I might be projecting my anger about Jackson onto Evelyn unfairly and that I should separate my emotions about the breakup from my friendship with Evelyn. The following week, I learned that Evelyn had been telling other people in our social circle that I was trying to prevent her from getting married because I was still in love with Jackson. Several mutual friends contacted me to ask if this was true and to encourage me to work things out with Evelyn before her wedding. These friends said they were confused about the situation because they remembered how upset I had been about Jackson's cheating and could not understand why I would want him back now. I realized that Evelyn and Jackson had created a narrative where I was the unstable ex-girlfriend who could not accept their happiness together. They had managed to turn several of our mutual friends against me by suggesting that my concerns about their relationship were based on jealousy rather than legitimate hurt and betrayal. This discovery made me understand that Evelyn had chosen Jackson over our friendship long before she had asked me to be her maid of honor. The situation became even more complicated when Jackson contacted me directly. He sent me a long email explaining that he understood why I might be upset about his relationship with Evelyn but that he hoped I could eventually be happy for both of them. Jackson wrote that he had learned from his mistakes in our relationship and was committed to being a better partner to Evelyn. He asked me to consider attending their wedding because my presence would mean a lot to Evelyn and would help demonstrate that there were no hard feelings between any of us. In his email, Jackson also apologized for the way our relationship had ended and acknowledged that his behavior had been hurtful and dishonest. However, he then went on to suggest that our relationship had been doomed from the beginning because we were not compatible as long-term partners. Jackson claimed that he had tried to make things work with me but had eventually realized that we wanted different things in life. The most infuriating part of Jackson's email was his suggestion that Evelyn was a better match for him because she was more understanding and supportive of his goals and ambitions. He wrote that Evelyn had helped him become a better person and that their relationship felt natural and effortless in a way that ours never had. Jackson seemed to be suggesting that his infidelity in our relationship was somehow justified because he had eventually found his true soulmate in Evelyn. I did not respond to Jackson's email, but I forwarded it to my sister who lives in another state. My sister was appalled by Jackson's arrogance and his attempt to rewrite the history of our relationship. She encouraged me to block both Jackson and Evelyn on all social media platforms and to avoid any further contact with them until after their wedding had passed. Following my sister's advice, I blocked Jackson and Evelyn on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I also asked our mutual friends not to share information about the wedding planning process with me because I did not want to hear updates about their relationship. Most of these friends were understanding and respected my request, though a few continued to pressure me to reconcile with Evelyn. Last week, I received a wedding invitation in the mail addressed to me in A+1. The invitation was elegant and expensive looking with gold lettering and professional photography of Jackson and Evelyn together. Inside the invitation was a handwritten note from Evelyn asking me to reconsider my decision about attending their wedding. She wrote that she missed our friendship and hoped that we could find a way to move past this disagreement. The wedding invitation confirmed that the ceremony would take place in 2 months at a resort about 3 hours from where I live. The guest list appeared to include most of our mutual friends from high school and college as well as Jackson's co-workers and family members. Evelyn had planned a destination wedding that would require guests to book hotel rooms and take time off work to attend. I have not yet responded to the wedding invitation and I am still uncertain about what to do. Part of me wants to attend the wedding just to prove that I am not the jealous ex-girlfriend that Evelyn and Jackson have made me out to be. Another part of me believes that attending their wedding would be a betrayal of my own self-respect and emotional well-being. The whole situation has made me question whether Evelyn was ever truly my friend or if she had been waiting for an opportunity to pursue Jackson throughout our entire relationship. I keep thinking about all the times Evelyn had listened to me complain about Jackson's behavior and had offered comfort and advice. Now I wonder if she had been mentally taking notes about his preferences and personality traits so that she could use that information to her advantage later. Update 2. My previous update was 6 weeks ago when I was still debating whether to attend Evelyn and Jackson's wedding. I ultimately decided not to go and blocked both of them on social media. I thought this would be the end of the situation, but things have gotten much worse since then. The wedding took place 3 weeks ago at the resort Evelyn had chosen. I spent that weekend camping with my sister at a state park about 4 hours away from the wedding venue. We hiked, played card games, and watched old movies on her laptop. My sister made sure I stayed completely offline during the entire weekend so I would not be tempted to look at social media posts from the wedding. When I returned home on Sunday evening, I had 17 missed calls and dozens of text messages from various friends and family members. The messages ranged from concerned to angry and I could not understand what had happened until I started reading them carefully. Apparently, the wedding had been a disaster and multiple people were blaming me for the problems that had occurred. According to the messages I received, Evelyn had suffered what people were calling a nervous breakdown during the wedding ceremony. She had started crying uncontrollably while saying her vows and had to be helped to a private room by her mother and bridesmaids. The ceremony was delayed for over an hour while Evelyn composed herself enough to continue with the proceedings. Several guests told me that Evelyn had been asking about my absence throughout the entire wedding day. She had apparently expected me to change my mind at the last minute and attend the ceremony despite our disagreement. When Evelyn realized I was not coming, she became increasingly agitated and kept asking other guests if they had heard from me or knew where I was. During the reception, Evelyn had apparently made a speech where she talked about our friendship and how much she missed having me there to celebrate with her. According to witnesses, Evelyn became emotional during this speech and said that the wedding did not feel complete without her best friend present. She then asked the other guests to join her in calling me so that I could at least participate in the celebration remotely. When none of the guests could reach me because I had turned off my phone, Evelyn became more upset and started blaming Jackson for the problems in our friendship. She accused him of not trying hard enough to make peace with me and said that he should have done more to ensure my attendance at their wedding. This argument between Evelyn and Jackson apparently continued throughout the reception and made many guests uncomfortable. The situation escalated when Evelyn demanded that Jackson call me personally and apologize for everything that had happened between us. When Jackson refused to make this call during their wedding reception, Evelyn threatened to leave the party and return to their hotel room. Jackson eventually agreed to try calling me but obviously could not reach me because my phone was turned off and I was in a location with poor cell service anyway. By the end of the evening, Evelyn was so distraught about my absence that she had to be sedated by a family friend who was a nurse. The reception ended early and many guests left feeling confused and uncomfortable about what they had witnessed. Several people told me that they had never seen a bride become so fixated on one missing guest that it overshadowed her entire wedding day. The day after the wedding, I started receiving angry messages from Evelyn's family members and some of our mutual friends. They accused me of deliberately sabotaging Evelyn's wedding by staying away and causing her to have an emotional breakdown. These people claimed that I had been selfish and vindictive by refusing to attend such an important event in Evelyn's life. Evelyn's mother called me directly and screamed at me over the phone for several minutes. She said that I had ruined her daughter's wedding day and that my behavior was unforgivable. According to Evelyn's mother, I had always been jealous of Evelyn and had been looking for an excuse to hurt her. She accused me of being a terrible friend who had abandoned Evelyn when she needed support the most. When I tried to explain to Evelyn's mother that I had made my position clear months in advance and that Evelyn had chosen to proceed with the wedding despite knowing I would not attend, she hung up on me. Several other family members sent me similar messages blaming me for Evelyn's emotional state and demanding that I apologize for my absence. The most shocking message came from my own mother, who had apparently spoken with Evelyn's mother about the wedding disaster. My mother called me and said that she was embarrassed by my behavior and disappointed that I had allowed my personal feelings to interfere with Evelyn's special day. She said that regardless of my issues with Jackson, I should have been there to support Evelyn as her oldest friend. When I reminded my mother that Evelyn had chosen to marry a man who had cheated on me multiple times and then had expected me to celebrate their union, my mother said that I was holding grudges and being immature. She argued that Jackson's past behavior was between him and me and that it should not have affected my friendship with Evelyn. My mother then revealed that she had promised Evelyn's mother that she would convince me to reach out to Evelyn and apologize for missing the wedding. She said that both families were hoping we could resolve this conflict and restore our friendship before it was damaged permanently. My mother warned me that if I continued to be stubborn about this situation, I would end up isolated and alone. 2 weeks after the wedding, Jackson sent me another email. This time his tone was much more aggressive and accusatory than his previous message had been. Jackson wrote that my selfishness had destroyed what should have been the happiest day of Evelyn's life and that I should be ashamed of my behavior. He said that Evelyn had been crying every day since the wedding because she missed our friendship and could not understand why I was being so cruel to her. In his email, Jackson also revealed that Evelyn had been having second thoughts about their marriage because of my absence from the wedding. He said that Evelyn felt like something was fundamentally wrong with their relationship if her best friend could not support it. Jackson blamed me for planting seeds of doubt in Evelyn's mind and accused me of deliberately trying to sabotage their marriage even after the ceremony had already taken place. Jackson demanded that I contact Evelyn immediately and reassure her that my absence from the wedding was not a reflection of my opinion about their relationship. He said that Evelyn needed to hear from me that I supported her marriage and wished them both happiness together. Jackson warned me that if Evelyn continued to be upset about our friendship, their marriage might not survive its first year. The most disturbing part of Jackson's email was his threat to tell everyone in our social circle that I was unstable and dangerous if I did not comply with his demands. He said that he had been trying to protect my reputation by not sharing details about my behavior during our relationship, but that he would be forced to reveal everything if I continued to hurt Evelyn. I forwarded Jackson's threatening email to my sister, who encouraged me to save copies of all communications I had received from him, Evelyn, and their families. My sister said that Jackson's threats constituted harassment and that I should consider contacting law enforcement if his behavior escalated further. She also suggested that I document the timeline of events in case I needed to prove that I had not done anything wrong. Last week, I learned that Evelyn and Jackson's marriage was indeed having serious problems. A mutual friend told me that Evelyn had been questioning whether she had made the right decision in marrying Jackson and that she had been asking people if they thought I might eventually forgive her. According to this friend, Evelyn had been comparing her relationship with Jackson to the friendship she had lost with me and wondering if the trade-off had been worth it. The same friend also told me that Jackson had been losing patience with Evelyn's emotional instability since the wedding. He had apparently expected Evelyn to get over her feelings about my absence within a few days, but instead she had become more obsessed with repairing our friendship. Jackson had started avoiding conversations about me and had told Evelyn that she needed to accept that some friendships do not last forever. Yesterday, I received a handwritten letter from Evelyn in the mail. The letter was 12 pages long and filled with apologies, explanations, and pleas for forgiveness. Evelyn wrote that she had made a terrible mistake in choosing Jackson over our friendship and that she regretted not considering my feelings before pursuing a relationship with him. In her letter, Evelyn admitted that she had known her relationship with Jackson would hurt me but had convinced herself that I would eventually understand and forgive her. She said that she had been so focused on her own happiness that she had ignored the impact her choices would have on our friendship. Evelyn wrote that she had realized too late that Jackson was not worth losing me over. Evelyn also revealed that Jackson had been treating her poorly since their wedding day and that she was beginning to understand why I had been so unhappy in my relationship with him. She said that Jackson had been dismissive of her emotions and had accused her of being overly dramatic about our friendship conflict. According to Evelyn, Jackson had told her that she needed to choose between being his wife or being my friend because he was tired of competing with me for her attention. The letter ended with Evelyn begging me to meet with her so that we could talk about repairing our friendship. She said that she was willing to do whatever it took to earn my forgiveness and that she had learned valuable lessons about loyalty and priorities. Evelyn wrote that she missed me terribly and that her life felt empty without our friendship. I have not responded to Evelyn's letter and I am not planning to contact her. While I appreciate that she has finally acknowledged the problems with her behavior, I cannot forget that she chose to believe Jackson's lies about our relationship and expected me to celebrate their marriage despite knowing how much he had hurt me. The damage to our friendship was not caused by a simple misunderstanding but by Evelyn's deliberate choice to prioritize her romantic relationship over our years of friendship. Update 3. This will be my final update about the situation with my former best friend Evelyn and my cheating ex-boyfriend Jackson. The past month has brought some unexpected developments that have confirmed my decision to cut contact with both of them was the right choice. 3 weeks ago, I received a phone call from an unknown number at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. When I answered, it was Evelyn crying hysterically and asking me to come pick her up from a gas station about 20 minutes from my apartment. She said that she and Jackson had gotten into a physical altercation and that she was afraid to go home. Evelyn begged me to help her and said she had nowhere else to turn. Despite everything that had happened between us, I could not ignore someone asking for help in what sounded like a dangerous situation. I drove to the gas station and found Evelyn sitting on the curb outside with a small suitcase and her purse. She had a bruise on her left cheek and her clothes were disheveled. When she got in my car, Evelyn immediately started apologizing and thanking me for coming to get her. During the drive back to my apartment, Evelyn explained what had happened that evening. She said that she and Jackson had been arguing about money because their wedding expenses had been much higher than anticipated and they were struggling to pay their bills. The argument had escalated when Evelyn mentioned that some of their financial problems might have been avoided if they had planned a smaller ceremony instead of the expensive destination wedding she had insisted on. According to Evelyn, Jackson had become enraged when she criticized their wedding plans and had accused her of regretting their marriage. He had apparently said that Evelyn had been miserable ever since the wedding because she was still obsessed with our broken friendship and could not focus on being a good wife. Jackson had then told Evelyn that she needed to choose between grieving our friendship or being married to him because he would not tolerate her constant sadness about losing me. Evelyn said that she had finally defended our friendship and told Jackson that he was wrong to expect her to simply forget about losing her best friend. She had pointed out that Jackson's behavior during our relationship had been the cause of our friendship ending and that he should take responsibility for the damage he had caused. This confrontation had apparently triggered Jackson's anger and led to him pushing Evelyn against their kitchen counter hard enough to bruise her face. After Jackson had shoved her, Evelyn had grabbed some clothes and left their apartment immediately. She had driven around for several hours trying to decide what to do before finally calling me. Evelyn said that she had been afraid to contact her family because they had invested so much money and emotion in her wedding that she felt like she could not admit the marriage was failing after only 2 months. I let Evelyn sleep on my couch that night and we talked for several hours about what had happened in her marriage and our friendship. Evelyn admitted that she had made a serious mistake in trusting Jackson's version of our relationship and in believing that he had changed from the person who had cheated on me repeatedly. She said that Jackson had been charming and attentive during their courtship but had become controlling and dismissive immediately after their wedding. Evelyn also revealed that Jackson had been pressuring her to cut contact with several of her other friends and family members because he claimed they had too much influence over her decisions. He had apparently been isolating her systematically and had convinced her that most people in her life were jealous of their relationship and wanted to see them fail. The next morning, Evelyn asked if she could stay with me for a few more days while she figured out her next steps. She said that she was not ready to return to Jackson but also was not prepared to file for divorce immediately. Evelyn wanted to try marriage counseling first to see if their relationship could be salvaged, though she acknowledged that Jackson would probably refuse to participate in therapy. I agreed to let Evelyn stay with me temporarily but I made it clear that this arrangement did not mean our friendship was automatically restored. I told her that while I was willing to help her through this crisis, I still needed time to process everything that had happened between us over the past year. Evelyn said she understood and promised not to pressure me about rebuilding our friendship while she was staying in my apartment. During the week that Evelyn stayed with me, I learned much more about what her marriage to Jackson had been like. She said that Jackson had been lying to her about his work schedule and had been spending evenings with his coworkers at bars instead of coming home to spend time with her. When Evelyn had confronted him about these lies, Jackson had accused her of being jealous and controlling just like he had accused me of the same behaviors. Evelyn also discovered that Jackson had been in contact with Jessica, his other ex-girlfriend, throughout their entire relationship and marriage. She had found text messages on his phone where Jackson had been complaining about Evelyn and comparing her negatively to Jessica. In some of these messages, Jackson had even suggested that he had made a mistake in marrying Evelyn and had wondered if he should have tried to reconcile with Jessica instead. Most shocking of all, Evelyn learned that Jackson had been telling people that their marriage was struggling because Evelyn was obsessed with me and could not move on from our friendship. He had been portraying Evelyn as unstable and clingy while presenting himself as a patient husband who was trying to help his wife overcome her unhealthy attachment to her former best friend. After a week of staying with me, Evelyn decided to move back in with her parents while she sorted out her marriage situation. She thanked me for helping her during her crisis and apologized again for all the pain she had caused by choosing Jackson over our friendship. Evelyn said that she finally understood why I had been so hurt by her decision and that she regretted not listening to my concerns about Jackson's character. Before Evelyn left my apartment, she asked if there was any possibility that we might be able to rebuild our friendship in the future. I told her honestly that I was not sure because the trust between us had been damaged so severely. I explained that even though I understood she had been manipulated by Jackson, she had still chosen to believe his lies about me and had expected me to celebrate their marriage despite knowing how much he had hurt me. 2 weeks after Evelyn moved back in with her parents, I heard through mutual friends that she had filed for divorce from Jackson. The divorce proceedings were apparently contentious because Jackson was refusing to split their wedding-related debts equally and was claiming that Evelyn had deceived him about her mental health and stability. He was trying to portray their marriage as a fraud and was demanding that Evelyn pay for the majority of their shared expenses. Evelyn's divorce lawyer had apparently advised her to document Jackson's history of infidelity and emotional abuse, which meant she needed to contact his previous partners to gather evidence. Evelyn reached out to me asking if I would be willing to provide a written statement about Jackson's behavior during our relationship. I agreed to write the statement because I believed it was important for Evelyn to have documentation of Jackson's pattern of dishonesty and manipulation. The statement I provided detailed the multiple incidents of cheating, the lies about his whereabouts, and the way Jackson had blamed me for his own behavior. I also included information about how Jackson had tried to rewrite the history of our relationship when he started dating Evelyn. The legal process took several months, but Evelyn was eventually granted the divorce on grounds of emotional cruelty and adultery. Jackson was required to pay for half of their wedding-related debts and was ordered to stay away from Evelyn's workplace and family home. The judge had apparently been unimpressed with Jackson's attempts to portray Evelyn as mentally unstable and had found his testimony to be inconsistent and unreliable. During the divorce proceedings, I learned that Jackson had been in contact with at least 3 other women during his marriage to Evelyn. He had apparently been using dating apps and had been meeting women for coffee dates and dinners while telling Evelyn he was working late or spending time with male friends. One of these women had even contacted Evelyn directly to warn her about Jackson's behavior after she discovered he was married. Last month, Evelyn sent me a text message letting me know that her divorce had been finalized and thanking me again for helping her during the worst period of her life. She said that she had learned valuable lessons about trusting people and recognizing red flags in relationships. Evelyn also mentioned that she was attending individual counseling to work through the trauma of her marriage and to understand how she had allowed herself to be manipulated so easily. In her message, Evelyn asked if I might be open to having coffee together sometime in the future when I felt ready. She said that she understood if I never wanted to see her again, but that she hoped we might eventually be able to have some kind of relationship, even if it could never be the same as our previous friendship. Evelyn promised that she would respect whatever boundaries I set and would not pressure me to forgive her. I have not responded to Evelyn's message yet because I am still processing my own emotions about everything that has happened. While I am glad that Evelyn escaped from her abusive marriage and that she has recognized the mistakes she made, I am not sure that I can ever fully trust her again. The fact that she chose to believe Jackson's lies about me and expected me to celebrate their marriage shows a fundamental lack of loyalty and judgment that goes beyond just being manipulated. Part of me feels sorry for Evelyn because she clearly suffered during her marriage to Jackson and learned some painful lessons about his true character. However, another part of me remembers how she dismissed my concerns about Jackson, how she believed his false narrative about our relationship, and how she expected me to be her maid of honor despite knowing how much he had hurt me. I have also realized that Evelyn's obsession with our friendship during her wedding and throughout her marriage was not necessarily about missing me as a person but about missing the validation and support I had provided her throughout our relationship. Evelyn had always been someone who needed constant reassurance and approval from others, and losing me had left a gap in her emotional support system that Jackson was unable or unwilling to fill. The entire situation has taught me important lessons about setting boundaries and recognizing when people are not respecting my emotional well-being. I learned that sometimes the most caring thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from relationships that cause you pain, even when other people pressure you to forgive and forget. I have decided not to respond to Evelyn's message asking to meet for coffee. While I do not wish her any harm and I am glad she is safe from Jackson, I do not believe that rebuilding our friendship would be healthy for either of us. Too much damage has been done and too many boundaries have been crossed for us to return to the trust and closeness we once shared. Instead, I am focusing on the relationships in my life that bring me joy and support. My sister has been incredibly helpful throughout this entire ordeal and has never once suggested that I should compromise my boundaries to make other people comfortable. The friends who truly know me have understood why I could not attend Evelyn's wedding and have supported my decision to prioritize my own emotional health. I have also started dating again and have met someone who treats me with the respect and honesty that I deserve. This new relationship has helped me understand what healthy communication and trust actually look like, which makes Jackson's behavior seem even more obviously unacceptable in retrospect. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had attended Evelyn's wedding or if I had tried harder to maintain our friendship despite my discomfort with her marriage. However, I believe that standing up for myself and refusing to participate in a situation that felt wrong was the right decision, even though it was difficult and lonely at times. The experience has also shown me that people's true character often becomes apparent during times of conflict and crisis. Evelyn's willingness to believe Jackson's lies about me and to prioritize her romantic relationship over our long friendship revealed aspects of her personality that I had not recognized before. Similarly, Jackson's attempts to manipulate both Evelyn and me showed that his behavior during our relationship was not an aberration but a consistent pattern. I am now in a much better place emotionally and have learned to trust my instincts when people's behavior feels wrong or hurtful. The pain of losing a long-time friendship was significant, but the peace that comes from removing toxic people from my life has been worth the temporary discomfort. Looking back, I can see that this entire situation was a blessing in disguise because it forced me to examine my relationships and set stronger boundaries with people who do not respect my well-being. I am grateful that I discovered Evelyn's true priorities before I wasted more years on a friendship that was not as solid as I had believed it to be. For anyone dealing with similar situations, I would encourage you to trust your instincts and prioritize your own emotional health over maintaining relationships that cause you pain. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. I thought my wife was cheating with her brother. The truth was more complicated than I ever imagined. Her mom revealed a secret that turned everything upside down. Hi everyone. I'm Ryan, 30M, and I need to share my story. 5 years ago, my life changed completely. I had just moved to a new city for a job opportunity at a tech startup. I was excited about the new chapter in my life, but also nervous about starting over in a place where I didn't know anyone. My first few weeks in the city were lonely. I spent most of my time at work or in my small apartment, trying to adjust to my new surroundings. Then, one Saturday morning, I decided to check out a local farmer's market. That's where I met Taylor, 28F. I was browsing a stall selling homemade jams when I accidentally knocked over a jar. As I scrambled to catch it, another hand reached out at the same time. Our hands touched, and I looked up to see Taylor smiling at me. We struck up a conversation, and I found myself immediately drawn to her warmth and easy laughter. We exchanged numbers and started dating soon after. Taylor was a kindergarten teacher, and her love for her job was infectious. She would tell me stories about her students, and I loved seeing how passionate she was about educating young minds. Our relationship progressed quickly. We had so much in common. We both loved hiking, trying new restaurants, and spending quiet evenings at home with a good book. After 6 months of dating, we moved in together. It felt right, like we were meant to be together. 2 years after we met, I proposed. I took Taylor back to the farmer's market where we first met and got down on one knee right in front of the jam stall. She said yes, and we were both overjoyed. We got married in a small ceremony a few months later, surrounded by our closest friends and family. Taylor's family welcomed me with open arms. Her parents, Linda and Tom, treated me like a son from the start. Taylor's brother Mike, 32M, and I also got along well. He was a bit quiet and reserved, but we bonded over our shared love of sports and video games. The first 2 years of our marriage were blissful. We both had stable jobs, we had just bought our first house, and we were talking about starting a family. Everything seemed perfect. Then, about a year ago, Mike lost his job. He had been working as a graphic designer for a marketing firm, but the company had to downsize due to financial difficulties. Mike was devastated. He had always been proud of his independence, and suddenly finding himself unemployed at 32 was a huge blow to his self-esteem. Taylor was really worried about her brother. She and Mike had always been close, and she hated seeing him struggle. One night, after we had dinner with Mike and saw how down he was, Taylor suggested that we offer him our spare room until he could get back on his feet. I agreed, thinking it would only be for a few months at most. At first, everything was fine. Mike was a considerate houseguest. He helped with chores, contributed what he could to groceries from his unemployment checks, and spent most of his time job hunting. Taylor seemed happy to have her brother around, and I was glad we could help him out during a tough time. But as weeks turned into months, I started noticing some changes. Taylor and Mike were spending more and more time together. They would stay up late talking and laughing in the living room, long after I had gone to bed. When I'd join them, their conversation would often stop abruptly, as if they were discussing something they didn't want me to hear. I tried to brush it off at first. They were siblings who hadn't lived together in years, so it made sense that they'd want to catch up. But something about their interactions started to make me uncomfortable. Taylor began dressing up more when she knew Mike would be around. She'd wear makeup on weekends, something she rarely did before. She started making Mike's favorite meals more often and going out of her way to do things for him. One day, about 4 months after Mike moved in, I came home early from work. As I walked in, I saw Taylor and Mike sitting very close on the couch, whispering to each other. They jumped apart when they saw me, and Taylor looked flustered. When I asked what was going on, they both brushed it off as nothing. That incident really bothered me. I tried to talk to Taylor about it that night, but she accused me of being jealous and overreacting. She said I was imagining things and that she was just trying to be supportive of her brother during a difficult time. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Over the next few weeks, I started paying more attention to Taylor and Mike's interactions. I noticed the lingering looks they shared, the way their hands would brush against each other when they thought I wasn't looking, the inside jokes they had that excluded me. Things came to a head about 2 weeks ago. I had gone to bed early because I had an important meeting the next day. Around midnight, I woke up needing a glass of water. As I approached the kitchen, I overheard Taylor and Mike talking in low voices. I couldn't make out everything they were saying, but I heard Taylor say, "We can't keep doing this. It's not right." Mike responded with, "But I love you. We've always loved each other." I felt like the ground had dropped out from under me. I burst into the kitchen, demanding to know what was going on. Taylor looked terrified, and Mike couldn't meet my eyes. After a moment of tense silence, Taylor broke down crying and admitted that she and Mike had been having an emotional affair. She swore that nothing physical had happened, but the emotional intimacy they shared was just as devastating to me. She said it had started innocently enough, late-night talks, sharing childhood memories, comforting each other. But over time, their feelings had grown into something more. I was in shock. I told Mike to leave our house immediately. He tried to argue, saying he had nowhere else to go, but I stood my ground. I couldn't bear to have him in our home for another minute. Taylor begged me not to make Mike leave. She kept saying he had nowhere to go, that we couldn't just throw him out on the street. I couldn't believe she was more concerned about her brother's living situation than our marriage. The next few days were awful. I moved into the spare room and barely spoke to Taylor. I felt betrayed not just by my wife, but by someone I had considered family. Mike had been like a brother to me, and now I felt like both he and Taylor had stabbed me in the back. I called my best friend Jake, 31M, and told him everything. Jake and I have been friends since college, and he's always been there for me. He was furious on my behalf and offered to let me stay with him for a while if I needed space. I've been struggling with what to do next. Part of me wants to work things out with Taylor. We've built a life together, and despite everything, I still love her. But another part of me can't get past the betrayal. How can I ever trust her again? And how can I be sure that her feelings for Mike won't resurface if we try to make our marriage work? I decided to take some time to think things through. I told Taylor I needed space and went to stay with Jake for a week. Taylor cried and begged me not to go, promising that she would cut off all contact with Mike if that's what it took to save our marriage. But I knew I needed this time to clear my head. While I was at Jake's, Taylor called and texted constantly. She apologized over and over, swearing that she had made a terrible mistake and that she loved me more than anything. She said she had realized how much she stood to lose and was willing to do anything to make things right. Jake thinks I should consider divorce. He says what Taylor and Mike did is unforgivable, and that I deserve better. But I can't help thinking about all the good times Taylor and I have shared. Is it really worth throwing away our marriage over this? After a week at Jake's, I returned home to talk things out with Taylor. She seemed genuinely remorseful and swore again that nothing physical had ever happened between her and Mike. She said she had realized how much she loved me and wanted to make things work. We agreed to try couples counseling, but I made it clear that Mike was no longer welcome in our home. Taylor reluctantly agreed, though I could tell it pained her to cut off her brother. Now, I'm at a crossroads. I love Taylor, but I don't know if I can ever fully trust her again. The image of her and Mike together haunts me. I keep replaying moments from the past few months in my head, wondering if there were signs I missed. I'm not sure if our marriage can survive this betrayal. Even if Taylor never speaks to Mike again, can I move past the knowledge that she developed feelings for her own brother? And how can I be sure those feelings won't resurface in the future? I guess I'm looking for advice. Has anyone been through something similar? How did you move past it? Is it even possible to rebuild trust after something like this? And am I overreacting by considering ending my marriage over an emotional affair, or is this as serious as it feels to me? Any thoughts or advice would be greatly appreciated. I feel lost and could use some perspective from people who aren't as close to the situation as I am. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and I wanted to give you all an update on my situation. A lot has happened, and I'm still trying to process everything. First off, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. Reading your comments and messages really helped me gain some perspective on my situation. After much consideration, Taylor and I decided to give our marriage another chance. We started couples counseling, and it seemed to be helping. Taylor was making a real effort to rebuild our trust, and I was trying my best to move past the betrayal. We set some ground rules. Taylor agreed to cut off all contact with Mike, and she gave me access to her phone and social media accounts as a way to rebuild trust. It wasn't ideal, but it felt necessary at the time. We also started doing more activities together, trying to reconnect and remember why we fell in love in the first place. For a while, things seemed to be improving. We were communicating better, and I was starting to feel like maybe we could move past this. Taylor was attentive and loving, always checking in with me to see how I was feeling. She seemed genuinely committed to making our marriage work. However, things took an unexpected turn last week. I received an anonymous email at my work address. The subject line said you need to know the truth, and my first instinct was to delete it as spam. But something made me open it. The sender claimed to be a friend of Mike's. They said they had evidence that Taylor and Mike's relationship wasn't just emotional, it had been physical as well. The email included screenshots of text messages between Taylor and Mike, dating back to before he even moved in with us. The messages were explicit and left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. There were declarations of love, descriptions of sexual encounters, and plans to meet up when I was out of town for work. There were also a few pictures attached that I couldn't bring myself to open. I felt sick reading through the messages. All the progress we had made in counseling, all the trust we had been trying to rebuild, it all came crashing down in an instant. I couldn't believe Taylor had been lying to me this whole time. I didn't confront Taylor immediately. I needed time to process what I had learned and decide how to approach the situation. I spent the next day at work in a daze, unable to focus on anything. When I got home that evening, I knew I had to confront her. I showed Taylor the email and the messages. As soon as she saw them, she broke down. Through her tears, she confessed that she and Mike had indeed been having a full-blown affair for over a year. It had started a few months before he lost his job and moved in with us. Taylor said she had wanted to tell me the truth many times, but she was afraid of losing me. She claimed that she had ended things with Mike for good after I confronted them that night in the kitchen, and that she truly wanted to make our marriage work. But I couldn't hear it. The lies and betrayal were too much. I packed a bag and left that night. I'm staying with Jake again, trying to figure out what to do next. Taylor has been calling and texting nonstop, alternating between apologies and accusations. She's angry that I won't give her another chance, saying that I'm throwing away our marriage over a mistake. But I don't see it as just a mistake. This was a deliberate, long-term deception. She lied to me for over a year, looked me in the eye and swore nothing physical had happened, all while carrying on an affair with her own brother. She let me invite Mike into our home, knowing full well what was going on between them. I've contacted a divorce lawyer and am exploring my options. Part of me still loves Taylor, but I don't think I can ever trust her again. The thought of her with Mike makes me feel physically ill. I keep thinking about all the times I was in the house while they were together, completely oblivious to what was happening under my own roof. Jake has been incredibly supportive through all of this. He's letting me crash at his place indefinitely and has been a great friend. He even offered to confront Mike, but I told him it wasn't worth it. I don't want anything to do with either of them anymore. I'm still in shock, to be honest. I keep replaying moments from the past year in my head, wondering how I could have been so blind. Were there signs I missed? Should I have known something was going on? I feel like such a fool for believing their lies and even agreeing to try to work things out. I'm also struggling with feelings of inadequacy. What did Mike have that I didn't? Was I not enough for Taylor? These thoughts keep me up at night. I know rationally that their actions are a reflection on them, not me, but it's hard not to take it personally. I haven't told many people about what's happened. I'm embarrassed and ashamed, even though I know I shouldn't be. I'm the victim here, but I still feel like I failed somehow. I haven't even told my parents yet. I'm dreading that conversation. I'm not sure what the future holds. Right now, I'm just taking it one day at a time. I'm focusing on work and trying to keep myself distracted. Jake suggested I take up a new hobby to keep my mind off things, so I've started learning to play guitar. It's not much, but it gives me something else to focus on. I've also started seeing a therapist to help me process everything. It's helping, but I still have a long way to go. The therapist says it's normal to feel a range of emotions, anger, sadness, confusion, and that I need to give myself time to grieve the loss of my marriage. I guess I'm still looking for advice. How do you move on from something like this? How do you learn to trust again? And am I making the right decision by pursuing divorce, or should I give Taylor one more chance? Part of me wonders if I'm giving up too easily, but another part feels like I'd be a fool to trust her again. Thank you all for listening. It helps to know I'm not alone in this. Update 2. It's been about 3 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some new developments in my situation. Things have taken another unexpected turn, and I'm still trying to process everything. After my last post, I went ahead with filing for divorce. It was a difficult decision, but I felt it was the right one given the extent of Taylor's betrayal. The divorce proceedings started, and Taylor initially contested it, begging for another chance. But I stood firm in my decision. The first few weeks were tough. Dividing up our assets, deciding what to do with the house, it all felt so final. There were moments when I second-guessed my decision, wondering if I was making a mistake. But then I'd remember the betrayal, the lies, and I knew I was doing the right thing for myself. About a month into the divorce process, I received a call from Taylor's mother, Linda. She was distraught and asked to meet with me. I was hesitant at first. Linda and I had always gotten along well, but I wasn't sure I was ready to face any member of Taylor's family. However, curiosity got the better of me, and I agreed to see her. We met at a small cafe near my office. Linda looked tired and stressed, nothing like the cheerful woman I remembered. After some awkward small talk, she dropped a bombshell that shook me to my core. Linda revealed that Taylor and Mike weren't actually biological siblings. Taylor had been adopted by Linda and her husband Tom when she was an infant, a fact they had kept hidden from both Taylor and Mike their entire lives. I was stunned. Linda explained that they had always planned to tell Taylor and Mike the truth when they were older, but as time went on, it became harder and harder to find the right moment. When Taylor and I got married, Linda and Tom decided to keep the secret, thinking it was no longer relevant. Linda went on to say that she and Tom had finally told Taylor and Mike the truth after learning about the affair and our impending divorce. She thought I deserved to know as well. This information threw me into turmoil. On one hand, it somewhat lessened the taboo nature of Taylor and Mike's relationship. They weren't biologically related, which made their affair slightly less shocking. On the other hand, it was yet another lie, another secret kept from me by the people I trusted most. I asked Linda why they had kept this secret for so long. She said they had been afraid of disrupting the family dynamic and hurting Taylor and Mike. They had convinced themselves that since Taylor and Mike had grown up as siblings, the truth didn't matter. Now, Linda said, she realized what a mistake that had been. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me was relieved that Taylor hadn't actually been involved with her biological brother. But another part of me was furious that this information had been kept from all of us for so long. If Taylor and Mike had known the truth, maybe none of this would have happened. I asked Linda why she was telling me this now. She said that after learning about the affair and our impending divorce, she and Tom had finally told Taylor and Mike the truth. She thought I deserved to know as well, especially since it might affect the divorce proceedings. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to an already complicated situation. I thanked Linda for telling me, but I made it clear that this information didn't change my decision to divorce Taylor. The lies and betrayal were still there, regardless of whether Taylor and Mike were biologically related or not. After meeting with Linda, I decided to meet with Taylor to discuss this new development. When we met, she was visibly upset. She apologized again for the affair and for lying to me. She said learning that Mike wasn't her biological brother had been a shock, but it didn't change her feelings for me. She wanted to try again, to start fresh with all the truth out in the open. I listened to her, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. The lies, the affair, the months of deception, it was all too much. I told her I would continue with the divorce. Taylor was devastated, but I stood my ground. Now, I'm left questioning everything. Was any part of my relationship with Taylor real? How many other secrets are there? I feel like I can't trust anyone anymore. The foundation of what I thought was my family has been completely shaken. I'm still staying with Jake, who's been an incredible support through all of this. He's helped me see that none of this is my fault and that I deserve better. He's been pushing me to get out more, to start rebuilding my life without Taylor. The divorce is moving forward, but it's been complicated by this new information. Taylor is still fighting it, now using the revelation about her adoption as a reason why we should try to work things out. She argues that she and Mike didn't know they weren't biological siblings, so their relationship wasn't as wrong as it seemed. But for me, that's not the point. Whether they're biologically related or not, Taylor and Mike betrayed me. They lied to me for months, carried on an affair in my own home, and only expressed remorse when they were caught. The trust is broken, and I don't think it can be repaired. I'm standing firm in my decision to end the marriage, but I can't deny that this whole situation has left me feeling lost and confused. How do you move on when your entire reality has been turned upside down? How do you trust again when it seems like everyone has been lying to you? I'm still seeing a therapist to work through all of this, and it's helping. But there are still days when the pain and anger feel overwhelming. I'm trying to focus on the future, on building a new life for myself, but it's hard when I'm still dealing with the fallout from my old life. I guess I'm still looking for advice. How do you rebuild your life after something like this? How do you learn to trust again when it seems like everyone has been lying to you? And how do you move past the anger and hurt to find happiness again? Thank you all for your continued support. It means more than you know. Update 3, it's been about 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share where things stand now. A lot has changed, and I'm finally starting to feel like I'm moving forward. The divorce was finalized 3 months ago. Despite Taylor's continued attempts to reconcile, I stood firm in my decision. The revelation about her adoption didn't change the fact that she had lied to me and betrayed our marriage. In the end, the court ruled in my favor, and the divorce was granted. In the aftermath of everything, I decided I needed a fresh start. I quit my job and moved to a new city about 200 miles away. It was a scary decision, but I felt like I needed to get away from all the memories and start over somewhere new. I found a new job at another tech startup. It's been challenging learning the ropes of a new company, but I've been throwing myself into my work. It's been a good distraction and has helped me feel like I'm moving forward with my life. I've also been focusing on myself. I've continued with therapy, which has been incredibly helpful in processing everything that happened. My therapist has been working with me on rebuilding my self-esteem and learning to trust again. It's a slow process, but I'm making progress. I've taken up new hobbies to keep myself busy. I'm still playing guitar, and I've actually gotten pretty decent at it. I've also started running. At first, it was just a way to clear my head, but now I'm training for a half marathon. The physical activity has been great for my mental health. As for Taylor and Mike, I've heard through mutual friends that they're now openly in a relationship. It's strange to think about, but I'm trying not to dwell on it. I've blocked both of them on all social media and asked our mutual friends not to give me updates about their lives. It's better for my peace of mind not to know what they're doing. Jake has been an incredible friend through all of this. He even helped me move to my new city and get settled. We talk regularly, and his support has been invaluable. He's been encouraging me to get back out there and start dating again, but I'm not quite ready for that yet. I'm not ready to start dating again yet, but I'm beginning to feel open to the possibility of a new relationship in the future. My therapist has been helping me work through my trust issues, and I'm slowly learning to open up again. I know not everyone is going to betray me the way Taylor did, but it's still hard to let my guard down. Looking back, I can see now that ending my marriage was the right decision. As painful as it was, it freed me from a relationship built on lies and allowed me to start fresh. I'm slowly building a new life for myself, one that's not defined by betrayal and deceit. I still have moments of anger and sadness when I think about everything that happened. Sometimes I'll see a couple walking down the street, holding hands and laughing, And I'll feel a pang of what I've lost. But those moments are becoming less frequent. More often, I find myself feeling hopeful about the future. To anyone going through a similar situation, I want to say that it does get better. It's not easy, and there are definitely tough days. But with time, support, and a lot of self-care, you can move forward. You're stronger than you think, and you deserve to be happy.